Minister Yasmin Fouad, we're so pleased to talk to you today. You are here on behalf of Egypt, and you are also co-facilitating the finance track together with Sweden and supporting the COP presidency. What are your priorities for this COP?
Good morning. This is a very important COP. After 2 years of the pandemic, we have not been meeting. We hope that we would finish the Paris Rulebook, which is the action plan for the Paris Agreement. Transparency, Article 6, adaptation and the global goal for adaptation, and finalizing the issues that is being left for the climate finance, especially agreeing on the long-term finance process and the new collective goal for finance. If we do that, we would feel that this COP has been very successful because we're putting a full stop on the Paris Rulebook, and we will start hopefully next COP for implementation.
Thank you. And what is your sense of progress in terms of where we are today in Glasgow?
There is progress in some points that relates to the adaptation, some on loss and damage, which is very important for the developing countries, especially the least developed countries. We're still lacking behind on climate finance on some issues, so we hope today we would do some progress in that. And transparency is moving in some parts well, and in other parts there will be progress as far as we can see that.
And you were also the president of the COP on biodiversity. Any progress on nature, on nature-based solutions, anything we can expect here from COP on climate?
Yeah, on the nature, I was privileged to be for 3 years the president of the CBD, and we have finalized the draft roadmap for the post-2020 until 2050 for biodiversity. Today in the COP, we are still making the linkages between the biodiversity and the climate change. It's very important to push the adaptation agenda forward by looking at nature-based solution, which is simply the other word of the ecosystem-based approach. It's the land, the water, the ecosystem, and the climate that together should be there for the benefit of the human beings.
Just to make it real, could you give us some examples of things you've done back home in Egypt on nature, nature-based solutions for climate, people, and nature?
Yes, one thing that we have been doing for adaptations, especially in Alexandria, that has been facing the sea level rise, is the protection fences and the big investment infrastructure that we are doing for the conservation of the natural resources, but also combating climate change. We have also other mechanisms that work on the mangroves, for an example, and how can we have a balanced ecosystem in the water by the use and the planting of the mangrove, relating protected area to the impact of climate change. And the foremost that I see very important is the solution that comes from local community that are embedded in the protected area in Egypt and how they do the conservation, and with their traditional knowledge being able to combat the impact of climate change on their livelihood.
And the great news is that Egypt is going to host COP27. What does it mean for your country and for Africa?
It is a big responsibility for Egypt to take over, but we are very much in line with the solidarity and cooperation with the whole world. It's very important to act now for climate change for the whole humanity. For Africa, where we are hosting on its behalf, we will be continuing our collaboration with the African countries to focus more on adaptation, on climate finance, to continue what Egypt has started through President Sisi in 2015 by launching the 2 initiatives of energy and adaptation. And we think that continuing and the success of the COP26 will be continuing in COP27 to ensure that we have a balanced agreement implementation of Paris Agreement, and this is very important for the whole world. So leading and working and coordinating with everyone around us from different countries, developed or developing country, is our message to the world that we would be able to move forward and save the planet.
And the last question, a lot of people would like you to be the next COP president. I know that Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Munoz, the high-level champions, are supporting you. A lot of women as well want you to be the president from the She Changes Climate platform. And the UN Secretary General is also very supportive. He's been recognizing your work on finance. If you were the next COP president, what would you do?
Being a president of the COP, it's very important that we would make sure that everyone is consulted, that we have an inclusive process, a transparent process, a meaningful participation of all stakeholders, not the parties to the convention alone, but the civil society, the youth, the children, and definitely above all, the women, and empowering women in that process. Our president has been giving so much attention to women, whether in the parliament by more than 25%. We are 8 women in the cabinet. So this is very important to even send a message to our future generation that combating climate change requires equality, requires inclusive process, transparency, but requires women to be at the head of that process because they are responsible in many areas around life.
Very inspiring. We wish you a lot of success.
Thank you.